Okay, gonna add some of it now while we wait on Hannah. Super excited to do this though. Hello.
Hey.
Oh my gosh. I hope this doesn't get like stuck over here. Okay, here we go. Hi. So exciting to host more of an intentional, let me add Camila here. Hi. I'm making sure I catch everyone. Sometimes I'm so bad. I'm like out here distracted hosting, and then there's like, hello, I'm waiting.
No, it's so hard because sometimes like you can't see the people when they come.
Yes.
Like when you scroll down.
Hi, Sam. Yes, I'm so excited. This comment made me laugh so hard. She's like, I can't watch any spoilers for Hunger Games. I haven't read it yet. I've seen the movie so many times, though. I know I felt that way. I'm like, if you have not read a Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and maybe you want to or something, go away. Like, we're going to talk all about it. We're going to talk about the movie. We're going to talk about the books and Hunger Games, too, not just a ballad. But I'm excited you're here, Sam. I love you. Need to check out her channel too if you haven't. It's so wholesome. It's so fun. But I'm excited to be here with you, ladies. You all love the Hunger Games. I see you, Hannah. I'm coming. I'm like, yes, I'm so excited to talk to everyone here because we've all been like a huge fan of the Hunger Games. And I feel like I've talked to every single one of you individually as we're like screaming. So now we get to scream collectively. Right?
Yes.
So I
Yes.
have questions, games, but feel free to introduce yourself and also welcome Laura to her first like stream. We've all been
Thank
there.
you.
Yes, very exciting.
Yeah.
Whoever wants to go first can go for it.
I'll go first. My name's Marisa. My channel is just my name, which is Marisa Toman. And I might be the oddball out here because I actually only read The Hunger Games for the first time this past year because I was like scared of dystopian books as a kid, so I was like, that's not for me. But I watched the movies, and I love the movies. So now I'm like all cut up and I'm like fully entering it. Like all of my social media is just Hunger Games fan edits, and I'm fully in it now.
We love it. And Laura knows a little bit about fan edits.
Yeah, I do. Oh my goodness. I'm Laura, like she said, and I read The Hunger Games when I was 13, about 10 years ago. I actually saw the movie first in my English class, and I was like obsessed with it from the moment I watched it for the first time. I bought the movies and I started to watch the movie. It was only one at the time. And I watched it nonstop every single day for like at least a couple of weeks. And then I got the books and I read all of them. And it's been a wild journey so far. And I'm living my best life at the moment with this Hunger Games coming back. It's been wonderful.
For real.
All right, I'll go. I've read The Hunger Games like as they came out. I'm pretty sure I went to like midnight showings. I mean, I'm 30, so like I feel like I'm one of the older people usually, but like I grew up with these books. Like these were, I don't know, like my one of my core series, I guess you'd say. So like I was obsessed. These are the books that I think taught me like what dystopian meant and like what that genre was. So I got super super into it. I just finished Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes like last week, so I just waited like last minute. Of course, I'm very much a procrastinator, but I was also kind of scared to read it because I felt like there's no way like the magic could come back. I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense, but I was super, super scared about it. And I literally was like crying listening to the audiobooks. So I was like, it's the right like feel, like the world is right, everything feels right. And I was like, I feel like I'm like 13 again, and it's just amazing. I haven't watched the movie yet, but I've watched like half of it through TikTok, and I'm going to go tomorrow. So at this point, like I'm ready for any spoilers and any theories. But yeah.
We love it.
I'm very similar to Hannah. Like I grew up with the Hunger Games. I don't even know how old I was, but I remember
going to see the movies and just thinking that they were so fantastic. And I think to this day, they're still my favorite book to movie adaptation. Like, I think they
Yeah.
are so well done. And I haven't read Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes because I've been so scared. When it came out, I heard like people were like, it's not good. Like, don't read it. So I was nervous. But then I was like, okay, I'm going to watch the movie. I know, not good before reading the book. But I love the movie. I was obsessed. So I'm going to read the book. I mean, I have it. I have the audiobook. So I'm like, okay, I'm ready.
Yeah, it's gonna be a trip for you, girl, because let me just say, snow on screen, snow in the book. We're gonna get into all of that, but they did a good job overall. They did a great job. Yes. Well, that's fun. I have a few questions. We're definitely going to compare. I think between the 6 of us or the 5 of us, we'll be able to answer most of these because some people are like, I watched the movie, but not the book. I did the book, but not the movie. But I definitely have a book versus movie type of thing that I want to get into. Let me just make sure I get this correct because there we go. So starting off with literally comparing like book snow with movie snow or just snow in general, because there's been like a whole wave of people loving snow and I don't blame them. I'm one of them. I'm like, wait, he's not that bad, right? No, he's like pretty bad, right? We know this man's history, so I don't know. It's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen the movie yet, but I remember even reading the book. There were like points where I was like, I don't know. And then like the next page, he's just doing something completely unhinged, and then it's like, whoa. So I'm like really excited to see the movie, but yeah, I'm interested to hear what you all think about the differences.
It's crazy. I'm like, Laura, come on. I know you have like a million things to say about this one.
Yeah, that's the problem. There's so much in my head that I don't even know what I want to say first. I read the book like almost 2 years ago, so I'm having a hard time. I had a hard time remembering. I had to watch a video to catch me up. So while I was watching the movie, I loved it so much. But going back into the book, I could see how the difference that you can see between the book and the movie, of course. Snow is definitely more fussy and like picky with things, and he's very like in his head. And I saw someone commenting in one of the reels that I posted about how they thought it was interesting they didn't show his inner monologue in the movie because it made you see him the way the people in the Capitol saw him in the book, just like the outside, this charismatic character who everyone loved. But we all know from the book that he's not any of that. He was very conflicting. I thought that he was very conflicting the entire time I was reading. I kept thinking, is this guy like, he's decent at least a little bit, because at times he showed a little bit of glimpses of decency, like maybe he had a moral compass in him, but then he would change like that. It's like a switch flipped inside of him, and he started spreading out capital stuff. And I was just very confused the entire time. I was hoping that he would make the right decisions and say the right things and just like be a good person. But he kept throwing me off, and I was like getting whiplash from his consistent swings from moods and opinions and thoughts in his head. So yeah, I think that if you didn't read the book, you'll definitely be missing that in the movie, because you can't see what's going on in his head, because he's very, very good at hiding it. But yeah, definitely a little bit of a difference there.
I know. And I wonder how it is for like Camila and Marisa, because Camila like watched the movie, didn't do the book yet, and like Marisa, you read the book and haven't seen the movie, because I feel like Camilla's like, yes, Daddy Snow, like let's go. Like I ship it. The movie got me in my feels knowing the ending. Like I knew what was gonna happen. We know him as the old man he is in Hunger Games. And then I'm sure Marisa, maybe you're like, why are you guys fangirling over this man when he was so unhinged in the book?
Yeah, totally. And it's even worse because I've been going back and watching the original movies. So last night I watched Catching Fire and Mockingjay Part 1. And especially in Mockingjay, it's like, oh my God, no, I will
Mhm.
not be thirsting for that. But like when I see the movie, all bets are off.
Yeah. I think I've always thought Snow was such an interesting villain. So even when she announced that she was writing like his origin story, I thought, oh, that's really interesting. Because I know a lot of people wanted like Haymitch's story or Finnick or, well, you know, the other characters that are really likable in the Hunger Games. But and then I got turned off because everyone was like, it's not good, don't read it. So but I had this discussion with my friend too, because she read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and she said the same thing. Like, she wanted more of Snow's inner dialogue. But I think a lot of, you get a lot of his conflicting thoughts and feelings, but shown through his acting and his facial expressions. Because you have to, it is a different medium. So, like, I personally don't like narration over films a lot. So I actually liked that they didn't have that as part of the
Yeah.
movie, and it was more of like either other characters' reactions to him or the way that he's acting, and you kind of see that flip and that switch in him. Um, and even with Tigress's line at the end of the movie where she says, "You look just like your father." Um, it speaks to like his change of character, and she's always saying like, you're a good person, like you don't have to be bad.
I know. And Hannah, remind me again, you did the book. Have you seen, and you haven't seen the movie. So, but
No.
you've seen clips here and there. So
Yeah, I've seen a ton, and I've been like watching theories for like the last week. Okay, might be like a weird opinion, but I agree with Cami, like the whole like not liking a narrator necessarily in the movie itself. I kind of like when you're the reader and you get all of that in the book, but you don't get it in the movie, because it feels like a reward for reading the book. Like, you're like, oh, I got like deeper and I know more because I read the book. Whereas like when I watch a movie, I kind of actually don't want it to be exactly like the book. Like, I do want it to do it justice, but like I want it to be cinematic. So like I would rather have it feel big and like this is actiony and it has all of these like big moments. I would rather see that in the movie than have them like slow it down to hear his narration and get up in his feels. Like, I don't need that because I'm going to read the book. I know I'm going to read the book and I'm going to get like extra hours because I'm reading. So I don't know. I kind of like having them be slightly different like that. But it's interesting because like my For You page is all like thirst traps of Snow, and he is awful in the book. Like, he is so terrible. And I went straight from my rewatch into, listening to the audiobooks, and I'm like, he's just the worst person. And like from page 1 to the last page of the book, like he's never redeemed himself in my eyes. Even if he like loves Lucy or he has his bestie, like he's talking shit in his head the whole time. Like, I can't. I could go all day. Anyways.
yes.
And I think
No,
necessarily-
exactly. And I think
Go ahead.
go ahead.
No, you go.
No, I just said like that's why I love lives like this, because we do actually get to deep dive. And like maybe someone like Samantha on here was like, I don't think I'll really read it, but it's like, no, we're here to expose. We're here to like really tell you what's up. But just also admire the film so much because his acting was phenomenal. I mean, you're right, where you could see on his face expression like conflicted, also part of the trauma, because in the book I often wondered like, was the war just a huge trauma, and that hatred that the grandmam put in him, to hate these districts. And then in the movie you kind of see the same, where he's like, oh, scared of falling into a war again, and he's all about like control, what you see later on in Old Snow, that he's like, order, chaos will happen if the districts don't bow to it, like that trauma of being in the war again, watching people eat people like we saw in the beginning of the movie and in the book. It's just wild. But that's why I wanted to do this type of live, because there's just so much to grab from the book or the movie.
And like with I don't ever think he was actually in love with Lucy either. I think he thought she was like, oh yeah, she's hot, she's like whatever. And he was attracted to her, but there was I don't think he's capable of love, because he loves himself too much, more than
Girl, wait
anyone.
until you get to the book. You're gonna see what he really thought. You're gonna know what he really felt, because I was straight up possession and obsession and control. It was not. Marissa was like, "Yep," like it was not love like in the movies. At one point, like I was watching it with my mom too because I got her into this, and she like there was this scene where they came together, and my mom was like, "Oh," and I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Why am I kind of feeling it too? Like I shouldn't
Yeah.
be."
Yeah.
Yeah, it totally like even reading the books, there's like scenes where it kind of gave me butterflies, but it's like I think how he reveals himself, it is completely like that possession. Like he's never like I'm so in love with her. It's like he's almost like mad that she has such a hold on him, and it's like trying to like conquer his like uncomfortable feelings and like or I guess the loss of control.
I think she makes him vulnerable, and that's what he doesn't like about Lucy. Like you guys said, there's this thing with control and his obsession. He says so in the beginning of the book that he can be very obsessive. He can fixate on one thing and just like have to see it through to the end. And Lucy made him vulnerable, and he didn't like that. But I don't think he was ever love. I think that there was the attraction and all that. But if he loved her, he wouldn't have made the switch so easily from, oh, let's run away together, to I'm going to kill you if I have to, because you know my secrets and you're going to expose me, and now everyone's going to disown me. He's so obsessed with control, and he's a narcissist. Everyone knows he's a narcissist.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And he wants to go back to the capital, and he wants to gain back everything that he lost. And he's willing to throw Lucy off to the side because of that. In the very end of the book, he says that. So it was never, I don't think it was ever love. It's just, yeah.
Oh my God, so true. At the end of the book, he did say like, love is chaotic and like love is awful, and he's just never gonna love anyone ever again, and ended up marrying for convenience and like the most far removed person he could find, because we do see his granddaughter later on, so he's leaving behind like a legacy, but it was never like he was never concerned about his family in the novels, in the in the film. And that's how it ends also in the prequel. And honestly, Camila, like I hate when people hated on this book so bad, because I looked at reviews and they were just like, "Oh, Snow's so evil," and like that's awful. And I was like, yeah, it's his book. Why are you rating it 1 star? Because I know. But I love how we talked about his inner monologue, because I actually want to talk about Sejanus. Because the way they showed him with Sejanus in the film almost like pissed me off a little bit. Because I was like, it really did seem almost like he cared about him, when his inner monologue was so bad. And like the ending, if people really knew the ending in the book on film, it would have like pissed them off to no end, because it was specifically his family and what happened to them that really upset me. Ugh. I know. I don't know if you know what I'm referring to. I think most people that read the book know.
Right. I can't speak about how it's portrayed in the movie, but that scene, like the end of their companionship, whatever, was so haunting. I think I listened to the audiobook, and I think I was just like
Aww.
There's just no words.
I know, Camilla, if you don't know, it's like the whole time he's talking smack, like Hannah said. He's talking like smack in his head, but especially about the Plinth family, or Plinth family, whatever, because they're district, and at the end of the day, they're not Panem. They're not like capital, they're only
not a pure breed.
Right.
Yes, so bad. Anytime they do anything, he's talking so badly in his head, even though like Sejanus and his mom would like feed him frequently, and like he loved their baking and blah, blah, blah. He was always saying like, oh, those filthy Plinths, like they don't belong here. They don't deserve that clothing they're wearing, blah, blah. Like we deserve it. We're Snows. all this stuff. And so in the end, when he betrays Sejanus and all this stuff happens, and he becomes the freaking heir of all that wealth because they're like, you've been such a good friend. His like final monologue about that is like, you don't deserve that money anyway. Like it belongs to me and my family. I was just like, like you killed him, and on top of that, like after being the heir, you're still talking down on this family.
I think he always felt like the Blyths took their place, right? Because Snow's father had like this whole thing with military, and then when it all fell through with District 13, the Blyths came in, and he's just like, these people took my family's legacy, and now their district. So he always sees them as below him. And there's like this moment when they're giving food to the districts in the zoo, and he asks Snow to trade tributes with him, and he tells him he's about to tell him that he's going to do it, and then he takes it back because he's like, no, that's one thing I have that he doesn't have, and I'm not going to let him have this. So it's just like in his head, almost like a competition, and Sejanus is like very ungrateful because he has everything and he doesn't want it, and he thinks it's a bad thing. And just like the entire time, like you said, he's talking back about Sejanus in his head. And then a little bit like when they arrive in the district 12, sorry. And Sejanus shows up and he's like, oh my God, I'm so happy you're here. And he's actually happy to see him. But a little bit ahead, he says that he's happy to know that there's someone who knows who he is. So like, it's not about his friendship with Sejanus. It's just like his feeling of being superior is back because now that he's in the districts, no one knows who he is and no one cares.
He's like celebrity status maintained.
Yes.
Because I have a fan. Oh, it's so bad. But he's such an interesting character in general. And like he did such a good role in the movie. Because you could really feel just how sad he was. And even then, like his friend, was it Marcus from his district? His death was way more brutal in the book. I thought they were going to show like he gets dragged by like horses down the freaking street of the capital, like just it's awful. And I'm like, at least they didn't show that, but
yeah,
he did a really good job in the role.
Oh yeah, I thought he was great.
In the movie, I heard that like Snow is like crying so much after Sejanus's death. And everyone's like, oh my God, like he's such a good friend. But the crazy part about in the book is the reason he cries in the book is because he's like, am I next? They're going to come for me. Like I'm in trouble. If like they came for him, I'm next on the chopping block. There is not even 1 ounce of sadness. And I feel like that was like my last straw with him, where I was like, nope. Like, I mean, I don't know why I held on that long, but I was waiting for like something to be redeeming. And after that, I was like, I get it. Yep. You're the worst.
That's so funny. Probably because he was a bit confusing, which I was actually also wondering. And the next one is like, do we ignore? Yes, we have a shirtless Snow there. Camila's like, hello. But it was just like, do we really think he was bad from the beginning, or was he really made into a villain? Because when I read the book, just to kick it off, like I legit was like, he's bad from the start. Like he has such a corruption in him that in the film it looks like Dr. Gall like fed that. But to me, I was like, he just kept feeding it himself, like the entitlement, the anger, that I was just like, there's no, he could be a good person here, which is wild because usually it feels like an origin story has both good and bad. But it just didn't feel that way to me.
Yeah, I don't think there was ever a redeeming point for him. I don't think he like became evil. Like you could argue that the war made him that way, but there's just so many other characters who also went through that war and they didn't do that. So yeah, I don't think there was any like one person or one event that like snaps him. I just think he's an evil person.
Yeah, well, because you could compare him and Tigress, right? They go through the same thing, and she's not like that. But yeah, I think he was never good. I think he was instead of like trying not to be evil, he was trying to be good. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense actually.
Like instead of him like being like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do the right thing because like this is the right thing. It's like, I'm gonna do the right thing. Yeah, it's the right thing, but I don't really care.
Yeah.
Or for looks,
Mhm.
right? Because he was a really smart guy. I mean, I guess you have to be like freaking president of Panem for that long, and
Mhm.
like that long. But he was really smart in the book and on film. Like you can see that he really calculates everything. And the only one I can see is Dr. like Dean Highbottom or whatever. He's the only one that's just like, I can see you're observing. And like Sejanus says it once where he's like, you're always watching. Like you're always watching us. Cause he's pretty quiet in the book, I think. And he only says things that are very calculated, but his inner voice is just constantly plotting, planning, talking, just all the time.
So it's actually interesting because there's some point in the book that when he reunites with Sejanus, he tells him that his mother sent him some food from home, and he's like, "Oh, it appears that his father was going to reward him. Sejanus's father was going to reward him for saving his son's life, and that his mom still liked him, and all that." Is like in his head, he's plotting like, "Oh, how can I earn my way back to the capital? Who can I use to get my way back there?" You know. So it's like he's always thinking, always plotting, always thinking of what he can do to get out on top.
Yeah. Or I think like was it Hannah that you said like, oh yeah, you said the only reason he was crying was for himself. And it's like the only reason he ran off with Lucy Gray was because he legit thought he was going to be killed. So it wasn't even like, oh, I'm going to run off with my love. It was legit like they have evidence, they'll find the guns. And I feel like I wish they did that like a bit more obviously in the film because I still felt like it was a little gray that maybe he did want to run off and he was just so upset at everything. But no, once he finds the guns, like Lucy Gray was right. It's like, okay, you're able to go back to your life. And that's legit what he thought. That's it.
I think that's why he seems like so evil too, is because he always knows what's going on and he's always like 5 steps ahead, and it's never like, oh, he didn't know, like he can't plead like negligence or anything like that, or he's not like too dumb. Like straight up from the beginning, even like Cammy was talking about his cousin Tigress and how like she was like selling herself, is what they like alluded to like keep their family afloat. And he was like, yeah, I think she's selling herself, but like you got to do what you got to do, is like what he's thinking in his head. And he's like, cool. Like, I don't know. I can't.
Even
That
worse,
part is
mad about her selling herself, right? He's like,
yes.
He like judges her for it.
Yeah.
But like
he was like,
he doesn't even talk to her about it or say like anything to her. He just judges her and is like, well, yeah.
I felt like he was trying so hard to reconcile that because she was someone important to him. Like if Snow really cares about anyone there, I think Tigress would be the closest thing at the time, because he really had a huge issue with that, which is so funny because then we know in the Hunger Games he was selling tributes. You know, so I mean, we're gonna get into Tigress. Don't worry, we have a whole section on Tigress on this live, because it was just so strange to me that happened, and it's like he was so grossed out by it. He was like demeaning her so much, like her value was just like stripping itself. But I think because that was really like her, like his only champion, his only person, he eventually like, you know, tricked himself into forgiving that, but not fully. So, and obviously like not fully either, because later on we know that he gets betrayed by her. Like she helps his demise.
Yeah.
Even though we know nothing else. Frustrating.
That was one of the things that I got really mad at, because we didn't see when the falling out happened. I know that we can see it at the end of the movie and the book, but still I wanted more on that. I wanted okay.
I know. Like, there's so many mysteries, including even more about like Lucy Gray, you know.
Mhm.
But I actually wanted to ask, so super cool. Like Camila sings amazingly, amazing. When I saw your story, I was like, girl, we have our own songbird. But I loved Rachel's like edition or rendition of the Hanging Tree. But how did you all feel when like you saw her sing it? Because I was just, I don't know, I was in my feels.
I personally hate Jennifer Lawrence's rendition of The Hanging Tree. I do not like it because she's very, very auto-tuned because she can't sing for real. So I loved I loved Rachel's rendition because it's so beautiful and her voice is so effortless.
She was the perfect freaking Lucy Gray. Like,
I think
even the soundtrack when she sang like you, what was that song called? You can't steal anything from me. Do you know
nothing you
which one
can
I'm talking
take
about?
from
When
me.
like
Yeah.
yes. Oh, so good. Like it came up randomly in my Spotify today. I was like, her voice is so freaking good. And she's even doing like the
Yeah.
accent. But when I tell you, I screamed. I don't know if like, you know, Hannah or Marissa or like anyone, when you guys read that part in the book, if you screamed, because I was screaming when I read that in the book that she's singing the Hanging Tree. I was like, wait a minute, this is bigger than I thought. I was just like, she's not just from 12. Like she made this song that's like, I was just like, wait, everybody stop living for a second. Let me process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best parts about the prequel is I don't really understand why anyone ever said it was bad because it just like brings so much history and richness into the overall story, and it's like Suzanne Collins left no box unchecked, and seeing those like little Easter eggs and things, it's just so good, and I'm very excited to see her sing all the songs.
No,
I
I
think
was very. Oh, sorry.
that's okay. Go ahead.
No, I was very emotional in the theater watching her sing because her voice is beautiful, like you said, and she sings it with soul. Like you can tell she's singing from the soul. And I listen to The Older Before all the time, and I cry every time. I swear, I don't know why that song makes me cry, but in the book, it's just like you can't even imagine what it's like sung. And when she's singing it, and it comes to life, and you're like, oh my god, this is so beautiful. Suzanne Collins is such a genius for writing these lyrics and just thinking the whole thing. And like you said, the Easter eggs, like you guys said, the Easter eggs. For everyone who read the books and watched the movies, it's so much richer when you watch this one. It's wonderful.
I feel like usually in books, at least for me, but like songs usually suck because it's like you can't hear it and it's just like terrible. You're reading lyrics, you're trying to like weirdly make up a tune and it just like doesn't deliver. But like this was like a short and sweet song initially. And then, of course, we got the movie. So we already knew how the song was. And then we got, you know, the best edition of this song of all, the club remix. Like, how is that a thing? So weird. But I like that we're actually getting like history of the songs too. Like,
Yes.
I don't know, I got it spoiled. So I knew that like there was a connection there a little bit, but that was fine. But I didn't realize until like I got into the book that like, oh, it was her song and there was more to it. And like, what does it mean? Like, I didn't think we would go that deep with it. So I got very, very excited for that part.
Yeah, and that Billy was the one asking her to like meet her by the tree. That was like, I wish they did add that in there, that he was the one saying, come on, like over and over, like meet me by the hanging tree, like we'll leave. Because that's the whole point of the song is like she keeps repeating his question over and over. But I love seeing the origin of that song too. I was like, wow, that's so tragic. What a tragic hanging too of that guy, that nameless guy.
Yeah.
Anna, you listened to the audiobook, you said, right?
Mm-hmm.
The audiobook rendition of the song makes me laugh so much. Like, I just don't understand why they did it like that. Even in like the Hunger Games audiobooks too, it's pretty funny, but it's
You
really
gotta
bad.
sing it, Marissa. Now you gotta show us.
He does it like this. It's like, are you coming to the tree? It's like that. He's like talking. It's so weird.
I mean,
You're
he
like,
does.
I
Like, they do say he talk sings, right? Like even his song he sings at the games. Like he was never the singer, so I guess it makes sense. But also, like I listen on 2x speed, so I feel like it was even more painful. Like I don't know, it was just weird.
Oh my god, that's so bad. I don't
And
know
just-
why they do it like that.
I always love when they like add the music at the end of the audiobook so you can hear what it would actually sound like. I read what's that book? Maybe Someday by Colleen Hoover, which has to do with music, and she got a singer to actually like write and record all of the music.
Wow.
And that was really cool to listen to because then you could like read the book and then listen to the song. So I like when authors do that.
That's okay. Marisa, you did a good job being a narrator. That's so I'd be like, what is this? Like at this point, Jennifer like Lawrence had saying that can't you at least do that? You know, as a narrator. But I like Red Rising. It did that too at the end of the book. It's a song that Darrow isn't allowed to sing, and I was like, what a treat, because that song was beautiful the way the narrator sang it at the end.
Oh, those books are so good. Yes.
We love dystopian out here. You know what's weird, and I don't know why he interested me so much, but the Reaper, like I almost forgot his role in, you know, I was like, well, isn't he just super violent and like the roughest one, which he was, but in the book and on film he's played such a significant role, and I thought he was such an interesting character. I kind of wish we had more of him. I don't know, is this just me playing tribute to like a fallen trip? Probably, because I don't know why his like actions just hurt me so much, the way he laid them all down and like accepted his fate despite being so violent, and like probably the would have been champion, you know.
Yeah.
Oof. I don't know if you guys liked any of the other tributes or had any thoughts around the Reaper. I just thought it was like a really big touch on the author's part to add a character like this in there.
Yeah.
I'm kind of
No,
struggling to remember. Sorry. Is he the one who like puts the bodies under a flag? Is that what it was?
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say that I really liked him too. I think the end of the book, the end of his story in the book's a little bit different from the movie, isn't it? Because I went into the movie hoping to see the end of the story the way it was in the book, and it was different, but I couldn't tell what was different. And I think it's because he lives until the end. There's the thing with the snakes, but after that, it's not like Lucy Gray's not the last person standing in the book, and he's still there, and she has to like outrun him or something like that, make him run because he's really sick or something like that. And I felt very attached to him. I don't know if it's because he reminds me of Thresh from the first book. Maybe there's something to do with that. And I was very attached to Thresh too because he saved Katniss's life. So I had a bond with him too, even if just for a little bit. And I was really sad to see him die. That scene with the flag made me really emotional.
Yeah, it reminded me of when Katniss put the flowers around Rue, and that heartbreaking scene. So yeah, and I also thought the same thing. I was like, oh, he's so much like Thresh. Like he seems so tough, but he's really sweet, and he's just doing it to survive.
I think the gesture is like a little bit of humanity in the middle of the chaos that is the Hunger Games.
Yeah, and even I forget what her name is. The one with the short hair. That in the movie she like goes up to Lucy at the end, and she's like, they made us like this, like they made us do all of these things.
Or she says it's not fair. Like it's like all their deaths for what? Which is just so traumatizing to hear, because I didn't like her in the book either. But she made me like her a bit more in the film toward the end, where I was like, she's right. Like she was just like, this can't mean nothing, you know, like all those deaths I took, like they can't go to waste, basically. A little bit of a Cato moment too, you know, where he just thought like, oh, I have trained for this my whole life. It's for my district, and the reality is they really don't care, do they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter what district you're from. If you're from a district.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things I like the most about like the Hunger Games is like, even though obviously Katniss is like the main character, she's not like truly like, yes, she's like the symbol of the rebellion and all of that, but she's not like the true like savior. You know what I mean? Like I feel like so many books, like there's a chosen one and they're everything.
Oh, yeah.
She's just truly kind of like the face of it all. She's the poster child. And I feel like every time we get to like know another tribute or another character, we get to like see their side of the rebellion. So like every time we meet someone new, we're like, oh, that's how they act out. So maybe if like the audience had seen more of that character or this tribute, like they would have been the face. She was just the one at the time, if that makes sense. So I don't know. I feel like if he would have been more publicized, like maybe, I don't know, like in the districts could see it more at that time, like maybe things would have progressed differently. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because they all survived in their own ways. Like Finnick deals with secrets, right? So they all are. Yeah, I agree totally. Oh, I love him too.
Yeah, I can't hear Finnick ever, and without being like, just like having a reaction.
A super hard question on this live, so hold on to your thoughts and prayers and hearts, because I ask hard questions. But I do love all of this. I actually did want to go into theories just in general, you know, like this being one of them. It's just she really never wanted to be the face. Like Lucy Gray also just wanted to survive, and that's it, you know. But I think it's one of the things I loved about Katniss. Like she was one of our first female like MCs that everyone hated. Like everyone kind of hated because she was annoying, she was frustrating. But in my head, I was like, I wouldn't want to like lead something like that either, like a whole war. Like I don't want a war either. Like she's just wanted to save her sister.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah. So I feel like the Hunger Games, sorry. I feel like sorry, I got sidetracked.
Sorry, I like misclicked
if
something.
someone has something to say, I forgot. Sorry.
Oops.
Wasn't she like 16 or something too?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember how old
17.
17. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she's a baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
No.
I've never met like a 16, 17-year-old that wasn't annoying. I was annoying as hell, you know? Like
Oh, yeah, of course.
Right. Literally last night as I was watching Mockingjay Part 1, when Katniss is first taken into District 13 and they're like, okay, so you're going to do all this and you're going to help us with the rebellion. This is really important. And she's like, I'm not doing that. You love PETA. I don't care. And which is like, that's obviously how she's feeling. And it's like, of course she wouldn't. She's like a teenage girl. Like she cares about these things that are close to her. And it's like, as a teenager, it's so hard for you to like look outside of your own little world and your bubble. So it's like the way she acts out, or not even acts out, but just like her feelings that are shown. It's so like, it hit me for the first time watching it, not as a teenager, being like, oh my God, you're a teenager. It's so crazy.
She also can't function without PETA. Like she wouldn't have gotten through the Hunger Games without PETA. PETA was the one who like was like, okay, she's pregnant, she's this, like, you know, like he played it up, and she couldn't without him. He comforted her too after the games, like.
Yeah, no, I feel like the Hunger Games is one of the most realistic books out there, like YA books out there, because most of the books that were viral at the time were like fantasy, and people forget that the Hunger Games is not fantasy. The Hunger Games is very realistic, and it's very terrifying when you think that it could fit into our reality, into our world. Because of that, there's nothing like supernatural happening. It's just like people being people, and the worst of humanity shown through these books. And like Katniss being a teenager and people expecting her to be like this figure that was going to lead them to freedom or something like that. And she's like, I'm 16, I'm 17, I just went through 200 games, I am worn out, I have PTSD, I'm going through all of these things. People, the Snow kidnapped Peter, like you guys said, the guy that was, the person that was holding her together, that was helping her through all of this, because he was the only one who went through all of this with her. So it's like very realistic and very sad. And some people didn't understand that. They thought that she had to do the things that people in the characters in fantasy books do that are like completely impossible. So yeah.
I don't know if this is like something that Suzanne has ever said, but like one of the theories that I was seeing a lot of is apparently people think that like the Hunger Games is supposed to be like, or the districts are supposed to be like the United States. If like we went to war and that was what's left. And then in the books, they say like, oh, like that's all that's left is just the districts if like the whole world fought. But then the theory is that the like capital is just hiding that like the rest of the world exists. They just don't have contact with the rest of the world so that they won't try to like rebel. So I saw that theory online. I feel like that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, which is interesting because in the books and stuff, the districts don't have any contact with each other, like they're not allowed to, which is so smart on like Snow's end to just cut the line and like really only feed them information they want. Because when Snow comes back, one of the first things he tells Gaul is like, you need to put projectors everywhere. Like no one knows what's going on. No one watches the games because they don't have like TV to watch it. So it's just so much control. But I remember, you know, when the books were coming out, the author was saying that she was like one day switching back and forth between TV channels. And on one channel, there was like a game show like Jeopardy. And on the other channel, it was like the commercials, you know, when they used to recruit people for the war, the Afghan war, like join the troops, join this. And then they would kind of show you like photos of what was going on in other places. And then she would switch back. And she was just kind of like, this is so bizarre to live. Like I'm in my couch, I'm on like in my bed and I'm watching this like really bright, vibrant co-host like Flickerman, you know, doing this whole game show. And on this other channel, they're showing me pictures of dying, starving children. And that's what got her thinking about the Hunger Games, which is why it became like a show in the book of the people in the Capitol, like watching for fun, for entertainment. And so I think that's why it does feel so real. I feel like it's more sci-fi, definitely more dystopian sci-fi. But I think that's why it also feels so real because it is something that, you know, we get to be here logging on, like having fun talking, but that's not everyone's actual reality if they're in the middle of a war, you know?
Yeah.
Just so heavy. Just so heavy.
And I think that's why it's a series that holds up so well throughout time. Because, you know, you read YA series, and then as the times change, they don't necessarily stay to the standard that they were back in the day. And this one, I think it will always, because it's such a human issue, war, and what the effects of war on people.
And like survival, because Snow had to kind of learn that too. But instead of him being like, oh yeah, like we make them into this, he's like, no, I'm still above that though. You know, even though Dr. Gall was trying to show him like you're not, and like this is true humanity. And so he really does just look at everyone like you're just all savages, you know? It's horrifying. But this prequel made me scream for many reasons, but one of them is like the theory and the connection of Lucy Gray and Katniss, because this was like insane to me. And I don't know if like you guys have your own theory or whoever is like watching, if they have their own theory. But to me, when I read that, I remember that Katniss learned the Hanging Tree song through her father. So her father taught her this song. Her mom was upset, was like, don't sing it again. You can clearly see it in the movies too, that no one really knows that song until she sings it. And now what is it called? The Covey? They have their original song. So Lucy Gray was never really 12 and she composed this song. And the only thing they didn't really show in the film, Camila, is that Maud Ivory is her cousin, who in my opinion looks a hell of a lot like Prim. Okay. So Maud Ivory is in the book is like Lucy said, she just needs to hear the tune once and she knows the song. And the only people that heard the hanging tree is Snow and Maud. Because in the book too, they also sing the song like Katniss sings to Rue later on, which also made me scream, you know? So it's my theory that it's either Maud or like Lucy did survive at the end and like had kids and like this something, but like there's no way she didn't descend from the Covey, you know? Because like who else would know this song? Who else would repeat this song? So broadcasting it, like DJing the hanging tree, you know? So that was the connection I made. I don't know.
I totally agree. I'm more on team Maud being the family relation there. It just fits a little bit better to me because of like her like ability to remember songs. It seems like Suzanne Collins wouldn't have mentioned that if it weren't important.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's just like, okay. But you know, could be either way, I guess.
I feel like Suzanne's kind of like sneaky too. Like, I don't know, like she like puts little Easter eggs and things that like we can figure out, but she also puts shit in there that we can't figure out. And I think she does it on purpose. Like I think she keeps guessing. And I feel like her being Katniss being a direct descendant of Lucy Gray is too obvious. Like I just feel like, yeah, like it would make sense, but I feel like that's just not Suzanne's style. Like as if I know her, but like, you know.
No, I agree. Well, just from the way she writes, like, and I agree with what Marisa said. Like, she wouldn't have put that in the book if it wasn't important.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they seem to be about the right age too for her to grow and, you know, have kids in time, whatever. Even though like even if she was alive, she would be like Snow's age. You know, so Snow is alive. So it's not so far-fetched if it were actually Lucy Gray that ended up having all of that. But there's just something about Maud and like even in the book toward the end, she kind of knew stuff was gonna go down and realized who Snow really was too. You know, but I always wonder like if Lucy ever made it out or not, like her namesake, you know. But I just love the connection. It was so frustrating for me on the author's end. I'm like, why can't you just tell us, girl? Like, just tell us who's the grandma, who's the paternal great grandmother here.
I saw theories too that that Lucy Gray was like the old woman in the movie who gave her the Mockingjay pin. I don't really think that's it, but I do think it's interesting. Like the age could work out, but in the books, it doesn't
It's someone
happen.
else in the books.
That's why it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. They just didn't have her character in the movie. I forget what her name was. Midge?
It was Madge.
Madge, yeah.
Yeah, I just remembered the Hob and I don't know, I couldn't remember the rest.
Yeah. Because they just don't have her character in the movies, but she's the one in the books who gives her
the mayor's daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is also really interesting because like the mayor's daughter in Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is such a little
I didn't even catch that. You know, I completely forgot she was in there. It's like, oh my gosh, which is more wild, I think.
Even that's kind of sneaky with her writing because I feel like she makes you think about things. Like the more you sit there and ponder it, you're like, oh, like what could like being in a district where everyone is so poor and no one like everything is rationed, you're like live this very strict lifestyle, but if you're the mayor's family you have more access to wealth and all of the necessities that you need. So when you're the daughter you get like the proximity of all of that, but like these are two very different results of how that could turn out for Suzanne.
Yeah.
Cool.
And same with the face. And it's like, Suzanne, that's how I felt just like reading the whole time because I bet there's even more we haven't even caught in there, you know? Because I even had someone say that they think like what Mags went through. Like there's so much we don't know, but Mags I think was like the following winner because she was I think the 11th year. But somebody was like, oh, maybe she helped set up the careers because she didn't want things to happen like what happened with Lucy, where like she won, but she was never really let go. But in my head, I was like, well, it was already set up before like Mags went off and like had to fight her way through. It was, to me, it's more like Snow saw what happened if you just ship them back to their district, how dangerous they can be. And so he just, we're going to make the tribute, you know, like homes, and we're still going to keep them on a leash and make them mentors. And it's never going to be students again. And no, like all control, control, control. So I don't really buy the whole like, oh, Mags heard what happened to Lucy, especially when those games were erased. Like he just erased the 10th Hunger Games and there was like no communication and most districts didn't even see what happened like with Lucy Gray. So I think Mags is still innocent. Justice for Mags.
Oh yeah. Well, I think that whole idea is too controlled for it not to be an idea that Snow came up with. Like it's so organized. Like, okay, they're gonna live in this specific neighborhood where there's gonna be like what, 2 of them, you know,
and like way better than the rest of the district. Yeah, like cause division. You know,
so yeah, I don't think, no, not poor Max.
Yeah,
I know, and I wanted to totally touch on Tigress because that I think blew my mind when I started the book, and I was like, Tigress is a Snow. Like she has such a small role in Hunger Games and the biggest one in the prequel, but we don't know what happened between them after that.
This might be an unpopular opinion. It probably is. But I honestly kind of think that maybe Suzanne decided later to make her related. Like, I feel like maybe when she initially introduced her, like she kept her intrigue there for sure. But I feel like if she was setting it up truly then, she would have done more. Like, I kind of feel like she did that later. And I'm okay with her doing it later because I think it's interesting and I think it's cool. But I feel like there's a little bit of a disconnect there for me to truly believe that like the first time she wrote the series before she wrote the prequel, that like in her head that they were related. But
I can see that because the only thing we know about her is that she somehow was connected to Snow, or she somehow had some kind of relationship with him. We don't know to what extent that relationship was, because who says it? I can't remember now. When they first, it's been so long since I've read them. When they first go to like get rescued and they're like, oh, I know a place.
Yeah.
They say that there's some connection that she has with Snow, but we don't know what it is. So I can totally see that she probably like came up with that later, that they're related.
Yeah, maybe she always felt like there was a connection, but not relation.
All they say is that she was a stylist in the games, which makes sense because she's really into fashion in the ballad. So maybe Snow made like a role for her. But I thought that was very interesting what you guys said about, you know, what Snow thought that she was doing, selling herself. Maybe that had something to do with the falling out they had. Maybe he thought she was like disgusting or something like that. And when she evolved with the procedures she had, I don't know, maybe he's kind of crazy. So you don't need much for him to completely change his mind about someone.
Yeah.
So
I saw a theory that was, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Tell me your theory. I'll share mine after, but I want to hear more.
I was like reading theories about her and how she like changed herself so much that so that he would accept her again, and like so that she would like become close to him again. And then she just realized he will never change. Like, I will never be good enough for him. I will never be what he wants me to be. Even if I get like all these trendy changes to my face like everyone else in the Capitol, I'm never gonna fit in with him.
And for me, it was the opposite. I was like, what if Snow forced Tigress to be a stylist and he made the role because he's cruel like that? And so in my head, he saw like in the film, again, Tom Blyth, whatever, he did an amazing job at like realizing on his face the moment Tigress said, you look just like your dad. He was kind of pissed. He was kind of like, really? You're gonna look down on me after what I'm doing for this family, you know? So part of me wonders if he's kind of like, you're not better than me, Tigress, and to punish you for thinking you are, or for thinking I'm cruel, you get to go to the tribute. Because she was so emotional watching all the tributes. She still had a heart for them, and he's gonna beat the crap out of that. You know, he's gonna be like, this is not allowed in my family or in the capital, but you're still someone I care about, so I'm gonna have to teach you another way. And I think over time, since he was showing his disgust, she played into it. She was maybe like, maybe the more I do, the more I distance, the more he'll let me go. You know, like, I don't want to be a part of this. I can't imagine her doing that for decades and like watching her tribute. I mean, look at Effie and Cinna, like how much they loved Katniss, and like I can't picture Tigress not caring about her tribute. So that's my theory, that I think that was like part of their falling out, was like he was being cruel and forced her and tried to kind of change her mind. Like, you're either with the program and don't look down and don't talk about it, or you're just going to suffer forever, you know?
No, that makes sense.
That makes sense to me too. And I think I don't think I could see it being that she was ever trying to like win Snow's favor again, because I think that disconnect happens at the end of the book. Because I know the procedures like were cosmetic for like the trends, and then it was just like too many and it got bad. But I could almost see it being like the initial ones were to separate herself from him, maybe. I don't know exactly what the trends were, but like becoming literally a tiger and like being so unrecognizable, like that to me seems like I don't know, she's like hiding behind it almost, like she wants to be removed from Snow.
I mean, this is kind of like heavier, but like it also could be some of her like trauma from her abuse. Like that's something a lot of people go through. Like if they've had, especially something like physical that's happened to their bodies, is that like they can't look at themselves comfortably anymore. So I could see her wanting to just like change herself for that reason too, because she's just like uncomfortable in the skin that she's in, not necessarily anything to do with him. But I feel like him having her as like a stylist is like keeping her on a leash kind of a thing, because she's the one who knows the most about him and that could do damage to him and his image. So if he can kind of like keep her close, I think that, and like, I don't know, he's all about appearances. So of course, like she's into fashion. He makes it look like it's good for her, but it's really good for him.
Oh yeah.
And if she made all of these changes because of the trauma, I think it would make sense that Snow would get even more disgusted by her because of it.
Yeah. Or just taking back her own name, or even like her own body again, you know, because I mean, it's wild that in the Hunger Games, she's not called like Snow. She's not called a Snow. She's just Tigress.
Yeah.
So I also wonder if like she wanted to look that way too, of like, yeah, maybe she was having a hard time with herself and her body and everything, and wanted to be like, you know what, if Snow sees me this way, if, what was his nickname? Coryo? It sees me this way, like I'm gonna play into that, and maybe it came from a shameful place to an empowering place. She definitely like look like a tiger, and to me a tiger is like empowered, you know, a tiger, in those clans, like it's the women, it's the female tigers that are the head of the clan, not necessarily like they're the hunters, you know what I mean, like they're the hunters, not the lions. So I wonder if that was also her being like, I'm removing myself from Snow, I'm only Tigress, I am a tiger, I am taking this back for myself. Because even when she showed herself to, you know, Katniss, she didn't do it shamefully, you know, like she did it so proud, right? So she was so sweet in a ballad, though, like literally the sweetest ever. That was like, how are you a Snow?
Yeah. And she like wanted him to be like, it's just so heartbreaking, because she's like wanting him so badly to make the right choice, and he never does.
Well, I have a question then, since we're talking about her specifically. So like when Katniss meets her, the line that like Katniss said to her was like, I'm here to kill President Snow, right? And like that's when we get the reaction from her, that she smiles, like she's like, yes. And then she decides to like hide them and help them. So like, what do we think specifically? Do we think that like it's just all of these things that built up that got her to this point, or do we think there was like a specific thing that happened? Like what got her from the like the prequel where she's still protecting him and still like in his corner and still making that effort, to straight up being like, okay, let's murder him? Like what do you guys think?
I mean, I think she sees all of the horrible things that he does, and especially with Katniss, like he says, okay, you have to prove to me that you're really in love. And then when she does, that's when he's like, well, love's a weakness. I'm gonna go after you. And I think she sees all that. And I think she's just so so disgusting. Disgusted with him.
Yeah, I think it's great or good type of thing. Kind of like she gave him chances, still hoping, and it's gotten so out of hand that she's like, well, someone has to. And I bet she didn't even try to poison him, because I mean she literally saw how much he would poison people. So she was probably like, I can't even do that to my own brother. They were like siblings in the book.
Yeah.
They were so inseparable.
And the fact that he poisons himself, like, so that no one will have that power over him.
Wait, can you explain the poison to me? Because I feel like I forgot this part.
Wait, what?
From a ballad?
Mm-hmm. Just like the poison part. And like my brain isn't braining.
It's just super significant because we know in Hunger Games, because Finnick reveals that, you know, Snow poisons everybody. But a huge thing was that I'm pretty sure the Dean Highbottom ended up like, okay, he was the first person to get poisoned by Snow. So that's where it literally started was, and then they show it kind of in the movie. It looks like maybe it's an overdose, but I think they did such a good job at emphasizing that anytime someone poured the rat poison into something, they would get that same nosebleed. Like they did a really good job at like really emphasizing that. So by the time you got to that scene where that guy is like high as a kite, it's not an overdose, it's a poisoning. And so it was super significant because that's where we see it begin. Like that's the very first scene where he kills his first person with poison and continues later on in the Hunger Games. Yeah.
And that's why he's like coughing blood later too.
Okay. Yeah, because I think it's Finnick that reveals that he has sores in his mouth from all the different poisons, and that's why he like is always coughing and has,
because the antidote doesn't always work, so it just like kills him. Yeah, I was like, talk about bad breath.
And it's also the reason why he wears the rose on his label, because of the smell.
Oh yeah,
because he's like literally rotten on the inside.
Yeah,
in so many ways.
Literally, yeah.
You're just like, they're so short, but like, how is there this much in them? Like, I completely forgot this part right now, and I'm like, I just reread them, but there's so much happening.
Yeah,
it just shows that you don't need a long book to fit so much in there. It's like so good on its own. Oh my gosh, there's someone. So Cassandra Reed says he got the idea from watching Lucy Gray doing the Hunger Games. I wonder if he never gave her that idea, if that would have been his choice of weapon. Yes, right? Because I don't know if for him he thinks it's cleaner, like less savage, more. Because again, he's just so high up on his horse.
He doesn't have to get his hands dirty.
Exactly.
I know.
And I love that in Mockingjay, when Finnick is telling the story, he says, poison, the perfect weapon for a snake. I just thought that line was so iconic, especially after the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Suzanne really leaned into the snake thing, and I really like that.
I know it was wild, though. I was like, Snow can be the snake, but so can Lucy, like evasive, and, you know, she talks to them, too. It's like she's definitely
a charmer.
Yeah, she's a charmer too. Like she's a survivor for sure. I think she's alive somewhere, which is what I actually did add that one too. That I'm like, do we really think she lived, or do we think she did bleed out? Because she did get shot in the book too. It clearly says she was like shot, and so he doesn't know if she ended up bleeding out or whatever, but he never found her again. So what do you think?
I'm so torn on this because I think it really could go either way, since she does like clearly have such like a strong survivalist instinct. It's like if she did make it past that like shot wound, she would be out of there and she would not be coming back. But at the same time, it's like no one sees her ever again. It's like what, she's just alone. She's such like a performer, like being around people is just such like a staple part of like her character that it's like I just can't imagine her being alone in the wilderness. And I definitely can't imagine her like being hidden in District 12 somewhere, because like all the cameras Snow sets up later, like did you see, I think I saw a tweet that was like, of course Snow saw when Katniss and Gale kissed by the lake because he set a camera up there because just in case she ever came back. So,
oh, that's a good one. He just really doesn't like not knowing.
I mean, if you think of it though as the theory that Hannah brought up earlier, that there's other things outside of the districts, like maybe that's where she went. And if they have no communication with anyone outside the districts, then it would make sense if we never see her again and she's like surviving and performing wherever. And to maybe tell her
she's in 13. She could have been in 13. I've seen theories online that like Coin is her daughter. I've seen that theory. And so like that's how
sad.
That'd be wild.
That's her daughter.
I mean, I don't know. I think that like she made it out, but I also think like she is a performer. And okay, this is the way my brain thinks about it. So before like at this point in the prequel, this is almost like the days of like before we had social media the way it is now. So you know, everyone's face isn't online all the time. Like you run into people here and there, but like I don't know, everyone is just less accessible. Like you might meet someone and kind of forget their face because you're not seeing them online, you're not interacting with them in that way. I feel like she could have reinvented herself very easily. And like the fact that like she is a performer, like she could have just took on a new persona and people wouldn't have realized that it was her, because in the book, even like when she goes after the Hunger Games to perform with the Covey, like nobody knew who she was. They were like, I think she's the winner of the Hunger Games, but I'm not even sure. They were like, they didn't know her. So I feel like, I don't know, she didn't really gain fame. So most people wouldn't have recognized her. Like he would have. But maybe she could have altered herself. Like clearly we see all of the modifications other people are doing to themselves. Like they have the capabilities.
Yeah,
that's a really good point.
She probably went off in the mountains because she's Covey. Like she's traveled. She's a nomad.
Yeah.
She knows. And she was already planning to like live in the mountains. So in my head, it goes back to kind of what Gale was trying to get Katniss to do, which is like, let's go to the mountains, which is what Billy and them wanted to do, right? Like all the District 12 people that wanted to leave, which is just so insane to me because a lot of people are like, why does she have makeup? Why does she look nice? It's like, well, it was a lot less controlled than Snow made it later. Like he really purposely made it like, no, you can't hunt. No, you can't go. Like the fact that they were swimming in the lake and like super happy. I'm like, that's not something you see in the Hunger Games with Katniss at all. And it's because Snow was in 12. Like he said in the Hunger Games, like I was in 12. So he was just like, all these privileges, all this slight joy that you have, all of it is going to be controlled and limited and all this stuff. So I really do think she probably went off into the mountains and just lived her life, you know. And if the part of the Covey found her later, then she had friends. If not, she literally said she was fine, you know.
To be honest, I didn't even know that there were theories until much later on. I think it was you, Joe, who told me about the theories that people had on what happened to her. Because from the moment I read it, I just had it in my head that she died. And so far, I still can't bring myself to believe that she made it out somehow. I don't know if it's because of that first impression that I had, but I don't know. I don't know if Suzanne did it on purpose, if she wanted an open ending, or if I don't know. She's very ingenious like that, but I don't know. I think mine is the darkest way of looking at things. I don't know.
But I feel like that's the most realistic though. Like
Yeah.
realistically, if you get shot in the middle of the woods and it's in a place where she's bleeding heavily, is she gonna survive? Probably not.
Yeah.
Like
we keep talking about like Suzanne Collins being sneaky and like mentioning things. And so what I was telling Laura before was like, well, the Lucy Gray story, like the way she got her name, that story it's more emphasized in the book than it is in the movie. But even like I said, I made my mom watch it, and even she gets lost sometimes. Even she caught it, so I was like, okay, they did a good job in the films if she caught this. But Lucy Gray is telling her story, how she got the name, how Lucy Gray's mysterious, how at the end you see these footprints, but no one finds a body, like no one sees where she went. So they do think she like grew these wings and flew and like is alive somewhere. And Snow asks her, like, what do you think happened to Lucy Gray? And she's like, I think she went off on her own. I think she's alive in the story because I'm a survivor. You know, Lucy Gray's a survivor. And so I feel like that was basically Collins telling us, like, she lived, you know, like Lucy Gray in the ballad. That's how she interprets it. That's how Maud Ivory also interpreted the song, because Maud's like, I think she grew wings and she flew and she's like free, you know. So that's why I lean more toward that, because I was like, no way Collins would drop that story, that origin of her name that her mom gave her, if that weren't like her answer. Basically, when fans are like, wait, what happened though, she's like, read the ballad of her name, you know.
I wouldn't be surprised if like maybe Suzanne herself doesn't even know like if she survived. Like that's the vibe I get, because the whole point is like this is Snow's story, right? And the fact is that he doesn't know if she lived or died. And that's kind of almost what keeps him on this brink of madness. Like that's what keeps him going and like continuing his crazy train, is that he's always like thinking about this. And so it keeps him like at that level of insanity and evil. So like, I don't know, it's kind of what makes the story, is the not knowing.
Yes. Really nice, but also give us answers. I did make some games for you guys just because I love games and interaction. So also that way, if anyone is watching or whoever is watching can like answer too. I love doing games on lives. Anytime I try to do reading sprints, it's just like a chat instead. So it's like, I'm not even going to try. We're not reading anything today. So I know we love like PETA, Finnick, whatever, and even Joanna, Mags, whatever. But I really wanted to be like, if you had to pick your victor, that wasn't like, you know, Finnick, PETA, Katniss, like who do you actually pick as your victor? Who do you like? Who would be your favorite? Who would you bet on? Whatever. Like,
I like Beatty.
I was gonna say Beatty.
Yeah.
But he's the one from, did you guys watch Westworld?
Yeah.
And his character is so similar in there. So like that makes me want to pick him even more, because like he's like the same person in both. Like he's just genius.
Yeah.
I loved his character. I do like Iris too. I don't think I could pick any of the other ones.
I like Joanna.
I mean, I love Joanna too, but like, I feel like Joanna and Matt, like Joanna said, Joanna and Mags are like part of the team. So
yeah, that's why I put them. I mean, I even thought like, should I even put Iris and Beatty? I'm just gonna be mean and put like the careers only, and they have to pick one of the careers, because part of me really admired Enobaria. I can never say her name, but part of me admired her. I was like, she was fierce. She picked the right side at the end, you know, kind of. But well, she had no other choice. And I kind of like the fact that we had like sibling victors. That was wild to me. I was like, how are you guys gonna pick at the end of the day?
Yeah.
It's a little depressing to go into the games knowing that either you or your sibling is going to die. It's like, I don't know.
We have another Beatty. Dude, I was so mad for Beatty when in the movies, at least, when Flickerman was like, oh, Beatty, you contributed so much to the games and we don't give a damn. Like, you're gonna go die. Like, they don't even miss him, they miss his brain, right? They miss his like what he's contributing. And he's like, well, the rules were made by man, so surely they can be changed by man. And Flickerman's just like, yeah, interesting. Anyway, he's like moving on.
Moving on.
Moving on.
So mad on his behalf, like the guy that puts in all the work in the group project and like gets screwed over.
Yeah, I think
disposable.
that's why Beatty's such a favorite for me, because he is such an important part, like especially in Mockingjay. Like they wouldn't have been able to do any of that without him.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he's just so. Have you all seen that edit on TikTok? That's like it starts out with that scene of him being like, "The Mockingjay lives," and then it's like this edit of like Katniss and. Anyways, I think about that like scene of him saying that all the time, and I'm like, yeah.
I love him. Yeah, I love him.
I loved his voice too, like that when you're like the Mockingjay lives. Like he was really good in that role. That was like I wanted more Beatty for sure. Yeah,
and he was the one who had the idea to use the electricity from the tree. So like he's really genius too.
Yeah, and Joanna, I feel so much for Joanna because like her and Haymitch, I feel like they have such a similar, like if not the exact same story, because both of their family members are murdered, like the people they love. Haymitch because he showed a flaw in the game with the way he won, and then Joanna because she refused to be sold, to be prostituted, and he just wiped the board. But it's just like every time I think about Joanna and like her harshness and how she's just like, and even in the film, like she's like, screw all of you, like I don't care, I'm not trying to like make friends with you. I love her so much, but I just want to go up to her, like she'd probably punch me if I could try to hug her, but I'm gonna be like, no, like you can still rebuild. Like Haymitch even rebuilt a little bit with Katniss and Peeta and Effie, like so can you, but I know it's not the same and like super traumatic having your whole family murdered.
Like, she's so tough on the outside, but she's so soft inside. Like she's also just like a teenage girl. Like you see it when she rifles through Katniss's stuff, and she was like she remembered the pearl from Peeta, and she was like, you know, like she had that like moment where she's like, wow, like one, I don't have anything that I have of sentimental value, and like you have these people, but then like she also like clearly paid attention to these items of Katniss's and like I don't know what she like thought about them.
Yeah, it's just so sad. And even she has like a nice moment even when they like rescue her too from Snow with Katniss, where you kind of see like a soft side of her.
I know. And I know maybe we sound like Capital people being like, we want to see their story. But it's not because I want to see like the gruesomeness. I want to know about them. You know, I want to know about specifically Joanna and like Haymitch, maybe Mags or Annie, you know, but it's like I want to see who they were, who they loved, who they were like before all this stuff happened, and at least we know they're living in like some form of peace and it didn't all go to waste at the end of it, which is more than most victors can say. But it's just I just want to know, like if Suzanne Collins ever wrote like novellas, I would eat those up. You know, I'd be like, heck yeah.
I mean, I would love to see Annie and Finnick's love story. Like that would actually be like a real love story to see.
Or even after with their kid.
I feel like reading them like as adults, like it's so much more sad. Like maybe it's just because like my brain's developed now, like I can process everything. But like reading these as a kid was so fun, and like now I wouldn't say reading these books is fun. Like I forgot like how heartbreaking it is. Like I like have watched them, read them a million times, and I was literally crying like 3 times, and I'm like, I know what's happening. Like why am I crying about this? But I forget how sad they are.
They're devastating.
I saw someone saying that some people read the Hunger Games and only focus on the romance when there's all of this social critique, and I'm like, we were 13 years old when we read these books. Of course we're going to focus on the romance. We didn't understand the world enough to know about all of these deep things that Suzanne Collins was trying to get across, but it's important that she laid out the groundwork from when we're children basically, so that now we can understand the value of everything she was trying to teach us, I guess.
And other people besides teenagers also read that series, so like they understood, like she was not just, I mean, of course it's YA, so like that's her target audience, but at the same time I feel like it's not a pigeonholed YA book. Like a lot of people read I had teachers reading the Hunger Games. So it's a story for everyone that everyone can get something out of.
Imagine how like bizarre it would be to be her though, and like it's at like well, I guess it's at its peak again, but like it's at its peak then where it's like exploding with like the younger audience, and we're all like going around in our like Team PETA, Team Gale t-shirts, and she's like, you know.
Hooray. I was like, yes, I have that question, even though it's obvious, but yes, you're right. And now probably people also being like, Daddy Snow. She's probably like, what the hell?
Honestly, I love Draco Malfoy, and that is literally Draco Malfoy. Like I was like, oh, Draco. That's
Did you guys see the TikTok where it was like Suzanne is like the only author that has the power to turn like blonde men into like main characters, because like all the like PETA, like, you know, like usually we all like the dark-haired men and we're like goodbye, but I don't know, she has skills.
She has skills.
No, I hate Gale.
Justice for blonde men. That's so funny. But yeah, you're right. Like we definitely focus on the love, and we're still focusing on the love. Because I sometimes like look, not to hate, but I genuinely wonder, like, who the hell is Team Gale? Like, who the hell here is Team Gale?
There's a few people that are Team Gale, honestly.
I know, but I'm like, out there. Why?
I was an extreme Gale hater the whole time, movies, reading it. And I'm still like, I'm never Team Gale, but I watched a really compelling TikTok of someone talking about like how a lot of people thought that she just put in that love triangle because that's what was popular back at the time. Like every single book had a love triangle, so she thought she had to do it too. But how she's really genius because they are like such great character foils of each other, and how Katniss isn't like, oh, which boy will I end up with? She's literally choosing between war and peace. Like, so now I have more of like a respect for Gale, being like, okay, you represent something really important. She would have never ended up with you, but I'm glad you're there for the.
I think if she had never gone. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Camila.
I think if she had never gone to the games, she would have been with Gale.
Okay, yes, that's true. I misspoke, but yeah.
Because she never noticed PETA. She didn't even notice when he threw her that bread on purpose.
That bread.
He burned the bread on purpose because he always liked her. Like, he was always in love with her. But yeah, I don't know. But Gale was annoying.
Yeah, I was rewatching Mockingjay, and I was kind of feeling a little bit bad for Gale because I know that he always loved Katniss and he had this thing for her all this time. But then every moment he gets, he just says something that is just like, no, I have no sympathy for you, because he keeps on trying to get PETA's place. Like, I felt something very selfish because I'm never going to be able to compete with him, because now that he's hijacked, you're never going to be able to let go of him. And I'm like, shut up, like, just be a good friend. And that's all you're there for. Like,
and he never could understand
Gale.
Yeah, he never could understand that. He was never like, oh, you know what? She saw a whole bunch of people getting killed, and she almost died. Maybe there's something wrong. Maybe I need to be more understanding.
He was like, you still like me? This doesn't look like it.
Exactly.
I mean, he was a kid too, right? Like, I always look at these things and I'm like, oh, they were kids, you know, we got to think about that. But to me, I got mad, like, sorry, Julia. I got so upset when this type of thing happens. I was Team Gale for looks, Team PETA for everything else. Because I was like, we're not talking about Liam Hemsworth here, people. We're not, okay? Back away. Look beyond the looks. We love our short king, but beyond that, look at what is actually happening within PETA and within Gale, and then choose something. Because I was like, I don't care if you're considered hunky. You're so annoying. You're so immature. Like, I'm not for this, especially with the end. Oh,
There's
terrific.
there's something I saw. Like, I know that Gil is this very rough character. He wants to go to war. He wants to help. He wants to do things. And then there's Peeta, who's very soft and very sweet. And I saw someone a post. I think it was on Tumblr, talking about how Peeta knows how to deal with Katniss because he's a baker, so he's used to fire. And Katniss has this fire in her, and he's used to fire, and he's been burned by it. He knows how to handle it, and he knows how to deal with her, and he knows he's going to get burned, but he's used to it, so it's okay. And it's just like, I thought that was very interesting. They used this thing that Suzanne Collins said in the books, like how Gil was always with snares and Peeta was always with fires. So Gil like knows how to set things up, but Peeta is the one who knows how to coax a fire. He's the one who knows how to, and I just thought that was very beautiful, a very beautiful way of looking at it. Especially because in the end, Katniss does say that she's the dandelion in the spring, the hope that she needed, the peace that she needed after all of the war she went through. And I just really love them. And I just really can't stand people who say that Peeta was cardboard or that Peeta wasn't important. I just get so mad because Peeta played such an important role in Katniss's life and in just everything. If he wasn't important to her, Snow wouldn't have used him against her. So I just love him so much.
We just
If
go
he
Delulu
hadn't
for
seen that she actually loved him,
Yes.
he would have been like, okay, whatever. But he saw that and he's like, you know what? That's her weakness.
Yeah, and in Mockingjay, like there's a moment where they're going to rescue him, and she's like on the call with President Snow, and she says, "Well, haven't I at least convinced you that I love you and that I love him?" And he's like, "Don't you understand? It's the things that we love most that destroy us." And he's like, "You remember I said that?" And Peeta comes back, and he is hijacked, and it's just like my brain was like, "Oh my God, Suzanne Collins, you're a genius."
Yeah.
To me, I did like a trailer reaction of like movies, from books coming up this year. And so I watched the Hunger Games one, the prequel, like on my channel for the first time. When I heard, old ass Snow say those words in the trailer, I lost it. I was like, part of me wish he kind of came back in a way. Like I wish they
Yeah.
had grabbed that actor and made him like a flash forward of him kind of remembering that time. I don't know, like cut scene into something where Katniss was doing something and that would have been like, I would have screamed, if I saw
Yeah.
like that actor come back
Yeah.
and reprise his role, because the voice they use, I know they just took it from that trailer, but that was just it impacted me so much.
I would
They
have
should
loved if he saw him when like he's like in his office, like watching when they're training and she does that bow that Lucy also
Yeah.
did. And then like you're like, wow.
I really loved Donald Sutherland as Snow because as I was rewatching the movies, I'm like, wow, he's really good at conveying this dictator, this villain that is not like wahaha, I'm going to kill you. He's like so good because he can get across that thing that he doesn't have to raise his voice. He doesn't have to make veiled threats. He's like very straight to the point, and he's like speaks at a low tone, and the entire time he's threatening you, but you just like you don't see him as a villain if you don't know who he is. He looks like a normal dude. He doesn't look like he's out to get you. But I think these are the villains that are more terrifying than any other kind because they don't have to raise their voice to scare you. It's just like their existence. They smile and you're like, oh my God, this dude is going to kill someone. And I think that's the best kind of villain there is.
He's like a true politician.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
So was Coin, that I'm like, she was freaking so bad. Like Snow Point, Snow's female edition,
Yeah.
Oh, that was so creepy.
Can you imagine if like they had ended it like how they do with Marvel movies, where after the credits you get like a little scene? Like that's what they should have done. And when they bring out like the older version of him, even though we already know what's gonna happen, like I feel like we all would have lost our minds. Like that would be so
I would have loved it. And like I was like, wow, he wasn't even in the press tour, but maybe there's a chance, because I love when they do that. And it would just really impact it more, like really solidify that Katniss really did remind him so much. Like he hates the Mockingjay for more reasons in the book. Like we're excited for you to read it, Camila, of like the real reason why he hates the Mockingjay symbol and just how it's like a a bastard, it's an abomination, it's all these things. It's just his hatred for Katniss runs so deep and makes so much more sense why he was so after her and like ready to extinguish her.
Yeah.
I have a tough question for you guys. You ready? So let's bring out some of our favorite characters.
Oh no.
Don't do that.
That's right. In the chat too. If you could only bring back one character to life,
Oh no.
like who would you pick? And these are the 4 that I went with because I felt like they had the biggest impact for me personally and from what I've seen out there. So you get to pick one to bring back. You may cry. You may come in screaming.
It's so hard.
Okay, I'll go. I think I would pick Finnick because I think his death was so out of the blue and was so fast. We didn't even have the time to deal with his death, to process the fact that he died, and they were just moving on. Go, go, go! We need to get to the capital. And I just don't think that any of us has dealt with that death really well. All of the characters, obviously, they're very important. We love all of them, and I wish I could bring all of them back. But I don't know. There's just something about Finnick. He had just gotten married. Annie was pregnant, and just like there was so much potential there, and it just hurts me so much that he died the way he did. I don't know.
Yeah. When he died in the book, when I first read it, I was like, wait, what just happened? And I had to go back and reread it because I was like, no, she didn't.
I can't believe she did.
No one is safe.
Truly.
Yeah.
Okay, I got mine. I actually I've given this a lot of thought.
Okay.
So Cinna is like my obvious answer because I feel like he's the one I wept the most over, but he's not who I would pick. I feel like, I don't know, Finnick is the one, like obvious answer that I feel like everyone would want to pick. I feel like he would be like the majority, but I feel like the way that Mockingjay ends, like Annie's actually kind of okay. Like she seems like healthy. Like she's being a mom and she seems like she's adjusted and I don't know, things are seemingly okay. So I think I'm actually going to pick Prim, even though she's my least favorite of all of these characters, because she was going to be a doctor. And I'm like, I feel like we needed her back in the world. Like, I think that she had, I don't know, like she was the one who had, like, she was so young, she had so much to live, and like she would have made such a good impact. So I don't know, deep thinking over here.
I like how you're going off of like, who do we need in society? And then there was like, who do we need to mourn? Like these characters have just, I love talking to book people because we talk about them like they're still real, you know? Like Laura was like, we haven't had time to mourn. I was like, who are we? Like they're not real, but like, yes, our feelings are so real.
It was real to me.
Yeah, I'd say like of all of these here, Rue is the only one that I would say she cannot come back because her death was so important to the rebellion. And I'm just thinking about like what would have happened if it was like Katniss, Peeta, and Rue left. I mean, maybe they still would have done the berries and
and I mean come back. Like they still happen, but somehow you bring them back like after everything.
Okay. So that changes everything.
Okay, think about it. Do you have an answer?
Let me think.
Or do you hate my question? Do you hate me?
No, I'm between Finnick and Prim because when Prim died in the book, I sobbed. Like I lost it because I said everything Katniss did was for her not to die. And the people that she was forced to work with were the ones that killed her.
I know.
So I think I would bring Prim back because I would want Katniss like then lost any relationship at all she could have had with her mom because her mom lost it again and was moved away and like they didn't have a relationship. And I think if Prim had still been alive, her and her mom would have been able to repair some of the thing. And I think that would have been really good for Katniss. for her mental health. So
That's true.
and I think and also for her cat. Her cat is so sad.
Yeah, thinking about it like that, I'm gonna also say Prim, because like even if we're saying like after the events, if they somehow come back, like if after Katniss thought she died like that, imagine her coming back and how like positive that would be in her like mental health and everything, and then she would have a positive effect on the world being a doctor. So I'll say Prim.
I also feel like, sorry.
No, go ahead, Laura.
I feel like all of their deaths had a purpose, except for Phoenix in a way, because, like you guys said, Rue was the one that kind of started the rebellion, and then Cinna was prepared to die. Cinna chose this. He knew he was going to die. He did that on purpose to further the rebellion for Katniss. And Prim, I think Prim's death is like this huge metaphor for how no matter what Katniss did, in the end, what Snow did was going to hurt her anyway. Just like she was a metaphor for all of the capital, the other children that died. She couldn't escape her fate in a way. You know, she escaped it in Hunger Games, but in the end, it's like death came to claim her or something like that in a dramatic way, poetic way. But Finnick, I feel like he had, like, he was just a casualty of war, like Pollux, like all of the other characters that died, you know, trying to help Katniss. So I didn't want any of them to die, but I feel like all of them served a purpose, and that's also part of Suzanne Collins' genius, and also to make us feel so much for this series the way we do.
I know, like nothing's really fair in war. Nothing. Because like this comment right here, Finnick, he and Annie deserve to live a life with some peace after everything. You would think so, just like Katniss, and she still lost Prim, which is so frustrating. I'm like, it all started for Prim. I couldn't believe like Collins did that to us. I was like, you really did do that? Like you really killed her anyway? Like it was literally her time to go after everything Katniss did. But when I mean, I asked this question to myself too, or it wouldn't be fair if I didn't answer, but made everyone else answer. And like, I think similar to what you said, Camila, like I was so sad about like Finnick, and I cried the most with Cinna, which was shocking to me that I wept with his death. I don't know why. But after thinking it through, like I agree with Julia here, and I think I would pick Rue in the end because she was so like young, you know, in my heart, in my eyes. I was like, we didn't get enough time with her. She was so young. She was 12. She had literally no other way to survive or to live, like nothing. You know, like Finnick still chose war, like Cinna still chose to make the dress. Like all of these different characters still had choices and she didn't, and she was young. And like Prim also went out into the battlefield to like help. Like she was, what are they called? Like the army people that are like on literally on the battlefield, like helping people, as just medics,
A
like
medic,
out.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just just a medic. I thought that was like a different name, but she literally was like, I'm gonna go out there and be with the rebellion and like help with the revolution. So in my head, I was like, I think Rue, like Katniss found peace. Annie did too with a kid, like Hannah was saying. And as much as we would love to see it, like they had longer life than Rue. Like that Rue really didn't have a choice. So I was part of me was like Cinna or like Finnick, you know, but I think I would pick the kid.
Well, I feel like Prim didn't have a choice either, though. Like she went out to serve in the to be a medic, but like she's a little girl. Like she shouldn't.
I
She
know.
shouldn't have been there. She wasn't
Yeah.
supposed to have been out there.
Yeah.
But you know,
I know.
going, like,
Yeah, and all I can think about is like the people who love them, how they felt afterwards. Because like with Rue's family, obviously they felt her death. With Prim, I can only think about Katniss's mom because she already lost her husband, and now Prim and Katniss had Peeta, but her mother had no one. And with Annie, because Annie had some mental health issues, right? Because of what happened to her in the games, and because she too was a part of the torture in the capital because of Finnick. So like I wonder how she dealt with all of that, how they dealt with all of this, you know.
It's such a hard question because they're all valid for bringing them back. And like that's what I thought with Prim too. I was like, she did it all for her, you know, like we should bring this back. And part of me is like, who's rooting for Rue? Like, is anyone advocating for her because we
I
don't
mean,
know
I
her?
cried a lot when Rue died
know?
too. Like I cried at all of their deaths.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Even
they were
when
all. I
when I
picked the
reread,
rough ones for a reason. I
yeah,
was like, these are all hard. They hit
but
home.
it's just so hard. Yeah. I mean, and like I love Rue, and especially like Amandala's face. Like she was so little and so
She was so
her
cute.
face is so innocent and so
Mhm.
Yeah.
cute. Oh, that's like heartbreaking.
So well.
She was a baby.
Yeah.
You need to tell us more about this comment, Hannah.
I just
Her
think
mom
that
is
every time I read the books and I watch the movies, I just like get mad at their mom. And I understand that like grief does terrible things to people. But at like the end of the day, like I mean, it's not even how it begins where like Katniss is already like detached because like and taking care of Prim. But like later when they both lose Prim, like they both lost her. And she's like, Katniss, you're grown enough. Like you've done 2 Hunger Games, goodbye. Like she just like it's like you're okay on your own. Like I feel like the mom makes zero effort with Katniss. And I mean, she's not so far gone. Like she's still a medic herself and she's still doing all of these other things for other people. And that's great and all, but like she makes zero effort with Katniss. And I find it extremely frustrating because Katniss is literally also a child.
Yeah.
that
I
is
think with
true. You forget she
Katniss,
is.
she's a physical like it's always said in the book like she looks like her dad and Prim looks like her mom. And I think for her mom, she detaches herself from Katniss because she's such a reminder of her father. And is it healthy? Should she be doing that? No. But like she doesn't have any other resources either, right? Like
Yeah.
she's also in a really controlled environment where they have no food. And she has no way to deal with her grief.
Yeah.
So I think, do I agree with how she acted? No, but I can understand why she detaches herself so much from Katniss. And even so, she like when Prim dies, all of the things that they did and everything that they went through, Katniss tried to save her. And I think she can't deal with that. With like Katniss is a reminder of Prim died. Prim died even though she tried to save her. And she's always I feel like she's just a physical reminder of the bad, which it's sad because she is her daughter still, but I don't know. I always felt like kind of bad for the mom.
Yeah, I do too. But like, I don't know. I just like have a hard time with it because like she watches Katniss go to the Hunger Games, and you'd think like that would be enough to like snap her out of some of it. Like, you know,
I don't know. I'm also like, I don't know if anyone on this live is a mom. Is anyone like a mom? Like, I'm not a mom, you know, that's why I'm asking if anyone else is a mom.
Yeah.
But the way I see like when moms lose a kid, it's like a whole other level that I'm like, I don't know. Like most parents that end up moving forward usually have a kid they had take care of. And in this case, like I would see Hannah's point of like, well, why couldn't you make an effort with Katniss? You have a daughter, but she's not like you don't need to take care of her anymore, you know? So I felt like the mom was also just like, what else do I have to live for? You know, so in the real sense, when I see parents lose a kid, it's like the worst thing in the world. It's nothing I wish upon anybody. So seeing her just completely break to me, just it's so sad too, because what can Katniss do? She's so traumatized as well. Like she can't help her mom. Like she can't do anything, and she shouldn't even be put in that role anyway, which I think Collins is trying to show. It's like these kids that had to grow up so fast and survive in this environment, which unfortunately we see happen not even far from home. Like we all have our stories. If anyone here knows someone, or maybe you are a kid that had to grow up fast because your parents aren't like aware there. It's just so many layers in this book that she really just dives into dynamics and environmental issues and mental health and loss and grief. It's so hard.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that would feel like.
No. And even so, like, she could have lost Katniss, and she
Mhm.
'cause Katniss is still her daughter, and she did volunteer. She's just like, "Oh, at least it's not Prim."
Yeah,
Honest,
my
that
tiny
was her
one.
reaction.
Yeah, I
Take
don't
this
know.
one.
I really disagree with like the what she did with her daughters, like the negligence with her daughters, but I also kind of like really take into consideration the depression factor. I know it's complicated. I don't think I've ever seen someone who's gone through depression so deep that they forgot their children. Not
Mhm.
personally, at least, but I don't know. It's just very complex. I don't think Suzanne Collins would do something very like, oh, halfway. I think she really
Yeah.
thought through everything. And also after Prim died, I think she must have felt like hollowed out. I know she had Katniss, but like you guys said, Prim was just like this very her thing. And I can only imagine what losing a husband and a daughter does to a person after a war, after going through all of that. I can only imagine she
Mhm.
must have been holding on to anything that would give her a sense of purpose, because it's very terrifying when you lose people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're back to like Nesta and Elaine. I'm like, why are you all up by Elaine? You're not like out here taking care of freaking Feyre. Just those weird family dynamics. And I don't even know if Collins was a mom when she wrote this. I finished like Iron Flame, and I definitely want to do like a live on Fourth Wing if anyone here reads that as well. Like, you're
Mm.
more than welcome. But there's like certain things that happen in Iron Flame. I'm not gonna spoil anything, but I feel like the general opinion of what happens in there, I'm like, well, we're all, or most of us don't have kids. Like, we don't
Mhm.
understand that point of view or like that side of things. That still doesn't make it okay, because I agree,
Mhm.
Hannah, like, you have a daughter, like, I don't know, like, we hope that that would
Mhm.
give her hope to move forward and
Yeah.
try.
Yeah.
It's also, that's why I made a point, like, I'm not a mom though. I wonder if these authors are, because Rebecca Yarros is a mom. And so when she added
Mhm.
that in there, like certain things that happen in there, I wondered like, oh, I wonder how she feels or what she thinks, because
Mm.
mom's
I think
perspective,
I think
you
Suzanne
know.
Collins was a mom because I think she dedicates it to her children in the end of the book. I'm pretty sure
I
there's
can
something like
imagine.
that.
And what the heck she put that mom through then? That's even worse.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. Well, I have one final, maybe fun question, which is, who's your favorite villain out here? Because Gaul was like pretty freaking creepy, more so in the
Yeah.
movie than I think in the book. She was a whole thing.
I was like, was Call really as crazy in the book as she was in the movie? Because I can remember. And then I was listening to the audiobook and she's like, hippity hoppity. I'm like, oh my God, this woman is unhinged. Somebody please help her.
Pretty comedy. She really was. Oh my god. I can't with
And
that
she
line.
starts
I feel like
rhyming things and I'm like, oh my God.
if anyone makes me quote like a Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, I'm just gonna say hippity hoppity, Dr. Gall. Like, that's my quote.
uh,
I still think I have to give it to Snow.
Yeah.
He's just because aside from being like a horrible evil person, he's just so interesting. Like, as for character study, like the thinking about the way he thinks and all of the different actions he takes, like it's just so interesting.
Yeah. I
I
think
feel like
like oh
oh, go
sorry.
ahead, go ahead, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say yes, like Snow takes the cake, but I really think it's Coin is such an interesting and important character because um, Suzanne Collins didn't have to do that. Like, didn't have to show that you can go so far the other direction and also come out the other side as a villain. She could have just had it like, oh, the Capitol's bad and whatever. But it's really more complex than that. And I think the fact that Suzanne Collins included Coin's character is like such like a perfect like cap on the story.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like Dr. Gall is like the typical like mad scientist, like evil villain. It's very formulaic, but yeah.
Though
Snow and Coin are very interesting.
I do wonder where she got her ideas from now. I'm like, origin story, Dr. Gall. Not actually, but
no,
where
that's
the heck
exactly
did
what I
she
was
get all these
thinking.
ideas?
I was thinking like we don't know about these other characters' stories. Like maybe the reason why we like Snow so much as a villain is because we know more of him, but we have no idea about the backstory. Like was Coin from District 13 all along? Things like that that I always wanted the answers to. And one thing that I always think is very interesting is how Snow was the one to point out to Katniss that Coin was going to do the same thing as him. Like why did he do that? He didn't have to do that, and I think that was very very interesting.
Because I think he hated Katniss, but I think he respected her. Because he knew,
right? The honesty between them.
Yeah.
He knew. She was like, I know what kind of actions you'll take because I would have done something similar.
Yeah.
And I think that there's like a weird, he doesn't like her, but there's a weird kind of understanding between them.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why he's like, he tells her, like, it wasn't me. Why would I do that?
Yeah.
Why would I kill capital children?
I know for a man,
he did
with
made a
secrets,
human barricade though, so like how much better is he? Yeah, I guess I would have to go with Snow too, especially because we know more of his story, how he came to be the person that he is, and because of the thing that I said about how he doesn't have to be loud, he doesn't have to be anything to be commanding. He just has this presence that everyone's afraid of him just because he is there, you know. And he doesn't have to show anything on the outside for you to know that he is plotting some stuff on the inside. And I really like that about him. But then again, Coin does have a little bit of that too because she fools everyone. But I don't know. I guess there's the thing that Snow was in power for such a long time, how he managed to maintain himself in that place for such a long time. All of the deceiving, all of the lies, his methods. It's very, very interesting.
It just make me laugh because you're like, oh, Snow is so like put together and he doesn't have to yell. And I'm just thinking about Dr. Gall being like, hippity hoppity.
Exactly.
I'm like, okay, yeah.
Like,
Makes sense. But even though that's still his mentor, like Snow got that bad because of Dr. Gall. So I was like, she's like the boss's boss, you know, and she's the whole reason we have capital mutts. She's the whole reason Peeta calls himself one later, you know, because of all of that science, technology, and engineering. So they all have their things that I wish we did know more of, you know, like how did Coin get that bad too? Is she just out for revenge and in trauma? And like they say she lost a kid too and her husband. So another mom that lost her children and dad and like a husband and still reacted so differently than Katniss's mom and just went the whole other way of like taking control and power like Snow did. I just feel like, no pun intended, they're the same side of like what is it, coin? The coin.
Different sides.
I can't English it. You guys get it.
No, it's so true. And I think it's interesting because the Hunger Games started as a revenge against the districts for rebelling in the first place. So she wants to do the same exact thing. Like then it'll constantly be the same. Then there's gonna eventually be another revolution, and what, they're gonna have a Hunger Games too, like
which I think Plutarch says at the end, like sadly people forget, like that was the whole point too, like we forget, you know. Or like even just simple things like when you get sick and you're like, I miss my nose, like I miss breathing, and then you breathe again, you're like whatever, it's you take it for granted, like, you forget until you lose it.
And I think it's also this book is, especially now, and because I'm a teacher, I think it's so important because that line that Plutarch says, people forget. That's why it's important for people to have history, for people to learn about things that happened in the past. And like the education system is changing so much where you're not allowed to teach certain things. So
I know it was wild. Like I worked with middle schoolers too until most recently. And it was wild. Like we were talking about Anne Frank and they were like, who's Anne Frank? Like what happened? And I was like, you don't know. Oh my gosh. And I was like, oh, well, you know, the Holocaust and all that. And they're like, no, like what happened? And I was just like, oh my gosh, like there's just so much loss like already. And
Mhm.
the only reason I felt like I had a lot in my education and there's still gaps is because my teachers made an effort to go off textbook and bring other
Mhm.
books into the classroom so that we learned everything. And people who are like, oh, it makes you hate America or whatever, I'm like, no, it did not make me feel
Yeah.
that way as a teenager. They didn't preach that. They didn't teach that. They're literally like, this is how we got here. This is what happened in
Mhm.
our history. It's important to know
Yeah.
because embedded in who we are. And so it's another significant moment from Collins to point
Yeah.
that out.
And I think it's interesting because it's everywhere in the world. I'm not in the US, and this happens here too. We have history lessons, we see the things that people did, and these things are repeated again. And it's just like, don't you guys remember what just happened a little bit ago? Like, you're trying to make history happen again, or do you not even remember that it happened? And it's also another reason why the Hunger Games is so powerful, because it serves as a reminder in book form, like in movie form, in a way that's entertaining to us, but that reminds us that we can't forget the things that happened. We can't let people take control the way, you guys know.
Yeah.
I just love these books. That's why I was so excited to do a whole live around it because we could go in so many directions, like dark ones, bright ones, like favorite things we loved about this or not, and even silly like thirst traps from Snow. It just shows you how far pretty privilege really goes and
Oh,
is.
yeah.
It's like away with murder, legitimate murder. And I loved sharing all the memes with you guys that I wish I had made a slide of some of those memes because they were just so iconic. I know. Or like the remix, like Hannah said, like, why are we making the Hanging Tree remix right now?
Like we played in clubs. That's wild.
At
Yeah.
clubs? No way.
Wow.
Oh my God. Oh my gosh, it's so bad. But is there anything else you guys want to share? I've had you guys here for a couple hours now, which I'm so thankful for. I hope it's been fun for you. I was like, even if no one else shows up, like, oh my gosh, we get to geek out here and like have fun and
Yeah.
book nerd about it. But any highlighting moment, whatever, I just laid out some questions to go and like take this along. But final moments, you guys can bring anything else up too. Because there's just so much in these books. There's a ton of stuff in these books.
Yeah.
That feels so dystopian. Playing
Yeah.
that in clubs. Yeah. Very capital S. Imagine if like their clubs also had like final victor moments, of
Yeah.
them like being somebody.
I'm sure. I feel like that's very
They
capital
probably
S
do.
that they would do that. So Snow
Do you
would
guys
probably
feel like
love
we're
that.
heading more and more in like these dystopian directions? Because I feel like Fahrenheit 451 is not far behind.
Oh yeah. Fahrenheit 451, The Handmaid's Tale, like
Yeah, it's
We'll see
scary.
these books escape. It's okay. When your books aren't like an escape anymore, they're like your
I know.
reality.
Well, it's really
It's funny because people are always like, oh, what's your favorite fictional world from your favorite books? I'm like, my favorite books are all dystopians. There's something wrong with me because I wouldn't want to be in any of them.
yeah.
Is there anything you guys are reading next after your Hunger Games hangover that you're like excited for?
I'm still working my way through the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. I'm
Where
in
are
the
you now?
middle of A Court of Mist and Fury.
Mm.
But unfortunately, I have to set it down in October because I'm doing the reindeer readathon, and I'm already like halfway through it, so I can't read it in December.
Mm.
So I'll pick her back up in the new year.
How can you do that? I feel like I can't just put things down. I have to.
Oh my gosh, I started it back in September, and then I didn't read it at all in October, and I just now picked it back up in November. So I'm like every other month I'm reading it.
Oh, I love that series.
Willpower.
I love that series. I'm reading
I know you like dark stuff.
what?
You love like dark fantasy stuff too.
Oh yeah,
Like
I
dark
love fantasy
romance.
and fantasy romance. But right now I'm like living in my fan fiction era. Like that's literally all I've been reading. So right now I'm reading The Disappearances of Draco Malfoy.
Oh, another Draco fanfic?
Yeah. But I like Hermione. So that's usually what I read with fan fiction. So I'm reading, it's like an 8th year fic, so it takes place, I'm sorry, 7th year fic. So it takes place instead of like the 7th book. It's there. So everything that's happened before like has still happened.
Oh, that's
But then
cool.
they're going like hunting for Horcruxes together. So
Cute.
it's so good. It's so good.
You're like cute date.
Oh, I love it.
Speaking of fanfiction, have you guys heard of the Peter's Games fanfiction?
Mm-mm.
There's a whole series of the Hunger Games from Peter's point of view, and I started reading it. I read the first one and I'm reading the second, and it's really good. The author did a really good job of like picking up exactly what Suzanne Collins wrote and just like reversing the point of view, and it's really realistic. You actually believe those things that happened, and it's really interesting because I would have loved to see the games from Peter's point of view, and it's wonderful. I really recommend it, and it's free. I think it's on AO3. So here's my recommendation.
I'm about to read
I
it.
trust you. I trust you because you live for these books, and you would absolutely demolish anyone that like would get it wrong.
Yeah, there was a point I was reading them side by side to see if they were like they're very faithful. Yeah, you can trust it.
I love that. I know when I'm ready for more fan fictions, I'm coming to you both and being like, all right, recommend me. Because I know if I fall into it, I'm just gonna binge it and like not pick anything else up. And like I can't afford to do that right now. It's gonna be like, welcome to my channel. It's day 53 and we're still on these fanfics.
No, yeah. I blame Lachlan from Locke's Library because she was like, you have to read Manacled, and I was like, okay. And then I fell into this hole, and like now I've read other stuff, but like mostly it's been fan fiction. So
yeah, I read that. I'm not even a fan, and I read that, so I know.
I'm too much of like a list person for fan fiction because I need to be able to track it. And I know that that's bizarre, but like I need to like be able to check my things off and like have my order. Maybe it's my like inner Virgo coming out, but like
you mean like track it like on Goodreads?
Yeah,
you can Manacled's on Goodreads. A lot of fan fiction's on Goodreads. Yeah, a lot of fan fiction.
Well, that changes literally everything. So okay,
a lot of fan fiction is on Goodreads now, which is nice.
Yeah, I mean, the scheme of things, like it doesn't matter, but like to me, it matters. You know?
Oh yeah,
I know. I feel you.
No, I get it. I love putting it on my Goodreads. I was like, oh, it's on Goodreads. I can put it.
I
on
like
there.
seeing like the bar go up, and I'm like, yes, I feel accomplished. Is that type A thing? And like webtoons, I'm really happy they're on there more now, and like comics, because I love webtoons. There's so many good webtoons out there. I'm like, I need you guys to post these on here because that's reading. I mean, I'm here for like 200 episodes. Yeah.
I don't know which one I'm reading next because I'm like not currently reading something. I have to finish lessons in chemistry for my book club, and then I'm starting Reindeer Readathon. But these are 2 books that are on my TBR, which I've never read either one of them. So I feel like I'll be reading both if I hopefully, read everything for the readathon. But I feel like it's going to be an interesting month because I have these, but I also have like a Christmas romance. I have like a family drama. I don't know. I have like the books are all over the place, but these are the 2 I'm the most excited for right now.
I love Vampire Academy. It's so good. I love that.
I know. I was thinking about that book today. I was like, should I try it? Like, I haven't. That's not something I didn't pick up back then.
Fun. Yeah. It's so fun.
That's why, I always have something going on my phone, like on my phone as an e-reader, and it has been the Vampire Academy series for like the past 5 years because I've been reading it so slowly. But if I'm like, I don't have my book I want to read, I'm like, let me see what's going on in Vampire Academy.
Yeah. They're just fun.
Like for a book, don't you? I feel like you just like take your time with them, and I like that. It's cool.
Yeah, I do very like I'm always reading multiple things at once.
That's nice. Cool. I can't be that chill. I wish I was that chill. I'm either like, I need to finish it now and go through it, or like, I'm not reading this. It's like I can't just set it down like, oh, I'll remember, I'll like pick it up later and still pick up wherever I left off. Like I would die.
Yeah.
That's nice. Hannah has her
blessing.
list. I need to finish things.
It's a blessing and a curse because I'm also so bad at DNFing stuff because I will finish it. It might be 2 years from now, but I'll still like read it a page a day if I have to.
Yeah, I have the same problem.
I don't know. I will DNF. Self-care.
Yeah. I've gotten better at that, of being like, no, really, I don't want to force myself to finish this. But normally I'm the same. Like I do it even if it ends up being 2 stars because it was like, no, I really didn't enjoy this. So I was like, okay, let me just drop it. There's more books I need to read.
Yeah. I used to do that too, but then I was getting slumpy. Like I would always get into a slump and I'm like, now I'm not reading anything. So I might as well just like not finish it.
Yeah. Right now, I'm finishing This Cursed Light, which is the sequel to This Vicious Grace, and it's so good. I feel like if you like Divine Rivals, I can't believe people haven't compared it yet, but if you like Divine Rivals, you'll like This Vicious Grace because it's also like has to do with gods coming in between, but it's a romance story. It's definitely a romance fantasy story and so different than what's out there right now because it's very Italian-esque, but that's an old world. The world building is so unique. It's very different than what I've seen in the past. So it's this girl who like she can amplify and like use people's power. She doesn't have them though, but she doesn't have a good control of like taking people's powers. And so she's killed her last 3 husbands who are supposed to help her in the apocalypse. Like she's meant to use their powers and like kill all these demons that come every like 5 years or so. Like that's her job. She is a divine person. She ends up killing all of them, doesn't know what to do because the war is around the corner. And then in comes this bodyguard that like she's the only one she can trust is like him. And it just gets messy from there, really good. She still needs a husband. She still needs someone that's going to like be alongside her in this war. And she still can't control that power. And like can't ever touch anyone, can't touch anything because she'll literally like suck the life out of them. And all she wants is really to be like hugged. So it's just so good.
Oh my God, this gives me Juliet vibes.
Yes, I bodyguard. I was like, ooh, like I love it. I love that trope so much.
Same.
And I love him. I love him. I'm like, his name is Dante. I'm like, yes, give me all Dante all day long. And it'll make you cry though. This book will make you cry. But yeah, I'm reading the sequel and I'm also picking up my webtoons again because it's been a while. And I really like The Cursed Princess Club and Your Throne. Those are like so good right now. So really cute and wholesome. And the other one's straight up dark fantasy, like so violent and stuff. It's so good. And it's like nearing its end. And I'm just mind blown. Like I was screaming. My mom was like, what happened? What happened? Like I was sitting next to her reading and I was like, oh, I'm just reading. I'm so sorry. Like here I am traumatized people again. She's like, don't do that. I told you. I was like, I know, I'm sorry. Like I feel it. So I know. But thank you guys for logging on and geeking out about all this stuff. Like this video is going to be up there so you can share it later on. People can come on and like or whatever, but whoever is watching, make sure you check out like their pages, their channels. I think you guys are the same on Instagram as well. I'm the only one that's like weird with different usernames. But all of your channels are like so fun and wholesome. And I'm just really happy I got to like actually chat with you guys live again because it's always fun.
Yeah, this was so much fun. I really had a lot of fun with all you guys.
Yeah, hopefully we'll have more.
Send us your memes still because we still want them like indefinitely, forever. Send me Hunger Games memes, like just forever.
Yes,
just in 10 years, I still want them.
Right.
I know. Nice. I'll make a post next time. We'll do like a live part of just pure reacting to memes, and we'll all bring our memes over. I'll make pages for them.
Please do
and
that.
Every single PETA Malark, like what's it called? What am I? Why am I forgetting what it's called when they like trick you and then like at the end it's PETA? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, like the whisper.
Oh, kind of how they're Rick rolling, but now it's PETA.
Yes,
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't remember what those are called either.
It's
with
like
with the photo like this. Remember?
Oh my God, I love it.
It's so good.
I can't wait to see him in Five Nights at Freddy's because it's been a while.
Oh my god, I saw it. It was awesome.
I need to see it.
Was it
And they're
scary?
horror.
No.
Okay. I teach first grade and they were like, oh, it's so scary. You're gonna be so scared. And I'm like, okay. But I was like, maybe it is. I don't know.
No,
movie.
it's really goofy, but
Oh, I'm excited.
I mean,
Because I was like talking to them about Goosebumps and they're like, what's Goosebumps? And I was
Goosebumps
like,
was creepy. They had some
I love
episodes.
Goosebumps.
Thank you guys. I hope you have a good night, good dinner, whatever you need to do. Thanks for joining us, Laura, all the way from like Brazil, because that's like a crazy time.
no.
I loved it.
So,
Oh
and
yeah, I
everybody-
almost
we're all
forgot to show
taking
you.
time
I
zones.
have my poster here in the back.
I love it.
Wow.
You're so lucky. Your premiere was nice. Mine had nothing.
Yeah.
I got the popcorn tub, but that's it.
Yeah. Oh, it was wonderful.
Awesome.
So cool.
Okay, bye, you guys. I'll start ending
Yeah.
this so it's not super awkward.